You are 13 years old. You live on a steep hillside where houses pile on top of each other like soaked cardboard boxes. Your mother spends 12 hours a day ironing other people's clothes so that 3 people can eat with money that would barely be enough for one. Your father left when you were 6. You don't know if he died or if he simply decided life was easier without you. School is a 40-minute walk downhill, but you stopped going 2 months ago because you didn't have shoes that didn't embarrass you. No one noticed you disappeared, not the teachers, and certainly not the government. On your block, there's a guy everyone calls El Mono. He is 19 and carries a shiny cell phone. He wears a gold chain and seems to get new sneakers almost every week. The girls look at him the way they would look at a famous vallenato singer. You watch him the way someone studies a mirage in the desert, knowing it probably isn't real, but wishing with all your heart that it is. El Mono works for the local crew. You don't know exactly what he does, but you do know he doesn't earn money ironing other people's shirts. One ordinary Tuesday, El Mono calls you over. Kid, I need you to run a small errand. He hands you an old phone and explains the job. You will stand on the corner by Don Hernando's store. If you see a police patrol passing by, you dial this number and hang up after 2 rings. That's it. They pay you 20,000 pesos per shift. That is more than your mother makes in an entire day burning her hands with the iron. Your first shift as a lookout lasts 6 hours. No patrol cars appear. When it ends, El Mono pulls up on a motorcycle and gives you the bill. That night you hand 10,000 pesos to your mom and say you helped unload a truck at the market. She doesn't ask questions. In neighborhoods like this, mothers learn not to ask, because the answers are usually worse than the uncertainty. You've been working as a lookout for 3 weeks when you witness your first real death. Not on television, not in some pirated movie bought downtown, an actual death. A man on a motorcycle shoots another man 4 times right in the street. It's 2 in the afternoon, in front of a small stand where a woman sells empanadas. The woman doesn't even scream. She simply picks up the empanadas that fell to the ground, blows the dust off them, and places them back on the tray. That night you can't sleep, but by the 3rd day you manage to. By the 10th, the memory has already faded. Getting used to horror is the first skill you develop in this business. Or maybe it's the last thing you need before turning into someone your mother would no longer recognize. Level 2, the street hitman. You're 16 years old now. You're no longer a lookout. You've been promoted. That's what they call it. As if this were a company with a human resources department and a career path. Your promotion happened when El Mono handed you a pistol and said you had to take care of a serious job. You knew exactly what that meant. Everyone does. Your first target is a 30-year-old man who owes money. You don't know how much or why. All you know is his address and that it has to happen before Friday. You spend 3 days waiting for him outside his house, sitting on a motorcycle that isn't yours. On the 3rd day, he finally walks out. You shoot twice. One bullet hits his shoulder, the other his back. The man collapses. You ride away and end up vomiting in an alley 2 blocks later. Your hands shake for a week, but they pay you 500,000 pesos, more money than you had ever held at once in your entire life. The man doesn't die. They call you to tell you that you have to go back and finish what you started. The 2nd time is easier. It shouldn't be, but it is. The human brain has a brutally efficient ability to adapt. What made you throw up the 1st time only gives you a slight stomach ache the 2nd. The 3rd time you feel nothing at all. By the 4th, you're even eating an empanada on the way to work. That's how it works. They give you an alias. You're no longer just a kid from the neighborhood. Now you're a name people whisper. You buy your first gold chain, your first pair of branded sneakers, a new phone. The girls who used to ignore you now come looking for you. You're 16 years old, and you feel like you've conquered the world. What you don't realize is that the world you think you conquered is only a 6-block square, where the average life expectancy barely reaches 22 years. You start using drugs. First marijuana to relax after the jobs. Then cocaine to build courage before doing them. Later bazuco, because cocaine is no longer enough. The cycle between consumption and violence feeds itself like a snake eating its own tail. You kill to earn money. You spend that money on drugs. The drugs give you the nerve to kill again. A perfectly circular business model. An MBA straight out of hell. You meet others like you. Kids of 15, 16, 17 years old, carrying pistols heavier than their school backpacks. No one talks about fear. No one mentions nightmares. Talking about that is for the weak. Here suffering happens in silence. People die in silence, and people kill in silence. Well, not completely in silence. Guns make quite a bit of noise. Your crew has territory, 3 blocks inside the neighborhood. Anyone selling drugs there without permission ends up floating in the stream. Anyone who steals there without authorization also ends up floating in the stream. In fact, doing anything without permission usually results in an unwanted aquatic trip. You're part of something bigger than yourself, and that feels good, until you realize that bigger than you also means it can crush you without thinking twice. Level 3. The crew boss. You are 20 years old. Statistically, you should already be dead, but you're still here. You survived 2 shootouts, a stabbing attempt, and an ambush that killed 3 of your friends. Now you're the one running the crew. 30 kids under your command. You control the drug corner for 4 blocks. You collect protection money from 25 businesses. Your day starts at 6 in the morning, reviewing shifts. Who's watching? Which corner? Who collects? From whom? How much product moved last night? It's pure management. Logistics, inventory, personnel control. If you had a university degree and a desk instead of a pistol, you'd be a branch manager somewhere. But you were born in the wrong neighborhood of the wrong country. So your office is a street corner and your retirement plan is a bullet. You answer directly to a cartel lieutenant. He gives you the product and you distribute it. You hand over 60% of the profits. The remaining 40% is split between you and your crew. It sounds unfair until you run the numbers. You move 3 million pesos a day. Your monthly cut reaches 12 million pesos. You're 20 years old, no taxes, no invoices, and no one watching you, except the Virgin of Sabanita, to whom you pray every Tuesday without noticing the irony. But the money comes with blood, literally. Every week, there's a new problem. A kid who stole product. A customer who refuses to pay. A rival crew trying to take your territory. A police officer demanding a bigger cut. Every problem requires a solution, and in the neighborhoods, those solutions come with a caliber. You make decisions about human lives with the same cold logic a manager uses to fire employees. That guy has to go. It sounds the same as saying, that employee isn't performing. The difference is that in your company, the termination is permanent, and your mother knows. You don't pretend anymore. She cries at night when she thinks you can't hear her. She goes to church to pray for your soul, but she accepts the money, she accepts a house. Poverty has a limit of dignity that reality in Colombia erodes every single day. You have a girlfriend. She's 17, beautiful, and she never asks where the money comes from. You bought her a phone, clothes. You took her to Cartagena. She posts everything on social media, as if it were the normal life of a normal couple. But it isn't normal. None of it is. Level 4, the lieutenant. You are 25 years old. You control 6 crews. 200 men answer to your voice. You manage cocaine distribution across an entire section of the city. Your territory generates 50 million pesos per week. You are the bridge between the street and the real bosses, the ones who never step foot in the neighborhoods, the ones who live in El Poblado with armored SUVs and extremely expensive lawyers. You no longer kill with your own hands. You have people for that now. Your work has become political. You negotiate territory boundaries with other lieutenants. You bribe police officers. You coordinate with military officials who prefer to look the other way. You pay judges who make files disappear. You keep local politicians happy with strategic donations that show up on paper as community projects. You build a soccer field in the neighborhood. You donate uniforms to the school. You give away food baskets in December. People love you. They respect you. They fear you. All 3 at the same time, which in Colombia is basically the recipe for power. You own a countryside estate on the outskirts of the city. Horses, a pool, 500 square meters decorated with a taste that can only be described as narco-baroque, golden furniture, paintings of European landscapes, a replica Roman fountain in the garden. 3 cars registered under frontmen who sign wherever you tell them. But paranoia has already settled in. You sleep with a revolver under your pillow. Cameras cover the entire house. 2 bodyguards follow you everywhere. You don't eat in restaurants you don't know. You never take the same route twice. You survived a grenade attack and an ambush where 2 of your men died. Every scar reminds you that retirement in this business is always paid in lead. You personally know the cartel partners. You meet with them at remote countryside estates. They are calm, well-educated men. They talk about tons the same way others talk about containers of coffee. They mention laboratories deep in the jungle as if they were pharmaceutical plants. And technically they are, except that the product they manufacture has a 100% mortality rate in the long run. Your mother no longer cries. She got used to it. She lives in a nice house now. You tell her you work in transportation businesses. She suspects the truth, but prefers not to believe it completely. You have a wife and a son. You watch him sleeping, and sometimes you think about walking away from everything. Everyone thinks about it at some point. No one actually does it. The cartel works like a black hole. The closer you get to the center, the stronger the gravity becomes. And you crossed the event horizon a long time ago. Level 5, the military chief. You are 30 years old. You are in charge of the cartel's military structure within the city. You coordinate war operations. Under your command, there are 15 lieutenants, and through them, you control more than 2,000 armed men. Your job is to direct organized violence, attacks, kidnappings, targeted executions, and large-scale intimidation campaigns. You are the arm that strikes when the cartel's brain gives the order. You have ordered the deaths of judges, journalists, police officers, rivals, and traitors. You have planned car bombs that ended up killing innocent people who were simply passing by. Long ago, you stopped seeing people as people. Now they are variables, obstacles, or collateral damage. The boss knows you personally. You proved your loyalty during moments when loyalty was paid with blood. You fought in the war against a rival cartel, in the war against the government, during the nights of explosions when the city trembled, and you decided exactly where it would tremble. That feeling of power is more addictive than the cocaine you sell. You earn enough money to live 3 different lives, but you cannot enjoy it. Your photograph sits in the files of the police, the army, and the DA. Any foreigner wearing dark glasses could be an agent. Every new neighbor could be an infiltrator. You live in a constant state of alert that makes you age twice as fast. Your wife left. She took your son to another city. She said she didn't want to raise her child waiting for the phone call telling her that his father had been found dead in a ditch. You don't blame her. You missed the normal life you used to pretend you had. That lie was the only truly beautiful thing left in your life. Level 6, the front man. You are 40 years old. You are not violent. You have never fired a gun. You wear a suit, a tie, and a discreet watch. You have a university degree in law. You work in an elegant office in the financial district of the city. From the outside, you look like a successful lawyer. From the inside, you are the ghost that makes possible what should not exist. Your job is to create the legal fiction that sustains the cartel, companies that exist only on paper, properties that change owners every week, bank accounts that move between jurisdictions like wealthy tourists, and charitable foundations that receive donations from shell companies, which in turn belong to trusts and tax havens that are controlled by people who don't actually exist. It's like a Russian nesting doll of fraud, where every layer hides another one. At the center of it all is the cartel's money, hot like a burning coal, waiting for you to cool it down with your signature and your stamp. You manage more than 100 properties, ranches, apartments, shopping centers, hotels, and more. None of them are registered under the name of their real owner. All of them are registered under the names of third parties who receive a monthly payment for lending their identities. Farmers who have no idea that, on paper, they own entire buildings. Humble women who don't know they appear as the owners of large cattle ranches. Your compensation is high, 500 million pesos a year. You live well but discreetly. You don't drive armored SUVs or wear gold chains. You have a comfortable apartment in an upper-middle-class neighborhood. You drive a reliable Japanese car, and you maintain a bank account that, at first glance, appears normal. The ostentation is left to the hitmen and the newly rich drug traffickers. You consider yourself professional. Your tool is the commercial code, not a rifle. Still, you know too much. Every document you sign, every company you register, every operation you carry out could become evidence. If the government manages to capture you, the whole system collapses. If the cartel begins to distrust you, you disappear. You live exactly on the line between being useful and being a risk. You are too valuable to eliminate, but also too dangerous to leave unwatched. That ambiguity is both your shield and your sentence. When the men from another organization came to settle scores, you didn't flee with the gunman. You ran with your documents, because in this war papers also kill, just more slowly and more elegantly. Level 7, the partner, you are 45 years old. You are one of the owners of the business, not the top boss, but part of the inner circle. You invested capital when the cartel was just beginning. You already had a smuggling route that worked and decided to share it. In exchange, you received a percentage of the profits that transformed your moderate fortune into a financial obscenity. Your wealth exceeds $100 million. You own cattle ranches that produce milk nobody drinks, pharmacy chains that sell more aspirin than statistics could possibly justify, and even a soccer team that loses almost every match but somehow always generates profits. On paper, everything is legal. In reality, everything is criminal. You travel frequently to Europe, the United States, and Panama. You possess a diplomatic passport that you obtained by financing the campaign of a politician who now holds an ambassadorial position. You attend dinners with legitimate businessmen who know perfectly well where your money comes from, but still accept your donations for their charitable foundations. Hypocrisy works like oil that keeps the machinery of society running, and you have learned to use it masterfully. Your family lives inside a bubble of luxury. Your children study at the best schools. Your wife organizes charity events. No one in your social circle says out loud what everyone knows silently. You are a criminal, but a rich criminal, and in Colombia that often turns you into an entrepreneur. However, the pressure begins to increase. The Americans are becoming more involved. The DEA already has photographs of you. The Colombian government, pressure from Washington, begins tightening the net. Your lawyer informs you that there is an extradition request with your name on it. Extradition, the word that makes every drug trafficker tremble. Going to prison in the United States where you cannot bribe guards, where 30 years actually mean 30 years, not 8 with good behavior and a sympathetic judge. You begin financing a war against extradition. You pay for bombs. You pay for kidnappings of politicians. You pay for media campaigns. The message is simple. If they extradite us, we destroy the country. And it is not an empty threat. You have the resources, the men, and the determination to carry it out. It is pure terrorism. But you present it as a defense of the right to be judged in your own country. The discourse of drug trafficking always comes wrapped in a layer of patriotism that would almost be ironic, if not for the number of dead it leaves behind. Level 8, the financial chief. You are 38 years old. You are the trusted cousin of the boss. You grew up together. You played soccer as children, stole things as teenagers, and now you manage an empire worth billions of dollars. Your function is money. All the money, every peso and every dollar that enters or leaves passes through your hands. The organization has stash houses all over the country, houses with double walls filled with bills, farms with barrels buried underground, empty apartments where suitcases full of cash pile up. The cartel generates between $2 and $3 billion a year. You are the only one who knows the real figure, and in truth it is higher than anyone imagines. Your biggest problem is not earning money. It is spending it. There is so much cash that it literally rots. Bills stored in humid, warehouses deteriorate. Rats chew them. Moisture destroys them. You lose about 10% each year, simply due to the physical decay of money. That equals around $200 million disappearing just because there is too much cash to store properly. It is the most absurd problem of criminal capitalism. Success so excessive that it begins destroying itself. You design money laundering systems worthy of a business school. Supermarket chains that report sales 10 times higher than reality. Buildings that are sold even before they exist. Imports with inflated invoices. Exports of flowers, coffee, and bananas where the difference becomes clean money that returns as legitimate profit. But the weight of knowledge begins to crush you. You know where every cent is. You know who collects what, You know which politician receives how much. You know which general looks the other way, and for what price. You know which journalist has a rate and which one doesn't. All that information makes you the most dangerous person in the organization after the boss himself. And that means that if something goes wrong, if an internal fracture appears or someone decides you know too much, your death will not be an accident. It will be an operational necessity. Your cousin, the boss, often says he trusts you more than anyone else. It sounds comforting until you remember that in this business, trust is often the prelude to betrayal. Everyone trusts everyone until they stop. And when trust disappears, so does breathing. Level 9. The boss. You are 40 years old. You are the richest man in Colombia, probably in all of Latin America. Your fortune exceeds $3 billion. You own a private zoo with hippopotamuses, elephants, and giraffes, collections of classic cars, your own airplane, and several helicopters. You are the Colombian version of the American dream, with the difference that your dream is built on an ocean of cocaine and a cemetery the size of an industrial complex. You began by stealing gravestones from cemeteries. Later you moved on to stealing cigarettes, then marijuana, and finally cocaine. Each step brought you closer at the same time to heaven and to hell. Now you control around 80% of the cocaine that reaches the United States, about 15 tons a day. They keep buying and you keep selling. The law of supply and demand in its purest and most brutal form. You got involved in politics, built neighborhoods, constructed soccer fields and schools. People began calling you the patron of the poor. The irony is obvious. And yes, many people see it. But they prefer to receive a free house, irony included, rather than continue living without a roof at all. You were elected as an alternate member of Congress, and you discovered something fascinating. You didn't need to buy everyone. You only needed to buy the right people. A judge here, a prosecutor there, a colonel somewhere else. Democracy works perfectly until someone has enough money to prove otherwise. Absolute power inevitably attracts absolute enemies. The government wants to see you in prison. The DEA has your photograph in all its offices. You decide to declare war on the state. Bombs explode in shopping centers, airplanes, and buildings. There are kidnappings. The entire country trembles. And you sit on your ranch convinced that you can win a war against an entire nation. The arrogance of the drug lord has no limits, but its fault always is a ground to hit. You build your own prison, jacuzzi, bar, sports field, and guard who actually work for you. From inside, you continue running the business. You keep giving orders for executions. You even have 2 of your own partners killed inside the place. The news eventually leaks out. The government, humiliated, decides to transfer you. So you escape, and the final manhunt begins. They pursue you with every possible resource. Satellite technology, multi-million-dollar rewards, constant operations. Even your former allies begin destroying everything you built. Properties are burned. Front men are murdered. Your empire collapses while you run from hiding place to hiding place. Thinner, more bearded, and more alone each time. In the end, you are on a rooftop with a telephone and a pistol. Everything that remains of the $3 billion empire, the zoo, the tons of drugs, the thousands of deaths, reduced to a single desperate man on the same kind of city roof where everything once began, when you were stealing gravestones. Gunshots are heard. You fall barefoot at 44 years old, with a late realization that the largest empire in Colombia could not buy you even a single extra second of life. What remains behind is a wounded country, weakened institutions, a narco-culture embedded in music, fashion, and even everyday language. Your hippopotamuses continue reproducing freely, altering entire ecosystems. The perfect metaphor for your legacy, something you brought out of whim, which is now almost impossible to eliminate. The structure survived. The street gangs continue. The hitmen keep appearing. Only the name of the cartel changed and the face of the boss. The poverty that feeds this machine seems eternal. That is what it feels like in the end. You never really escaped poverty. It only changed form. Everything began with hunger and ended in paranoia, blood, and a barefoot body under the December sun. Every peso earned cost a piece of humanity that never returns. And somewhere on a corner, a 13-year-old boy watches a man wearing a gold chain and thinks, I want to be like him. The wheel keeps turning. It always does. And with every turn, it crushes the same people as always.